Something has quietly changed in America's job market, and most people haven't noticed yet. This isn't a recession. It isn't a temporary correction, and it isn't companies struggling to survive. In 2026, some of the largest and most profitable corporations in the country are cutting jobs on purpose. Not because they have to, but because they believe they no longer need people. Engineers, managers, analysts, six-figure professionals. Entire careers erased, not by failure, but by design. And the companies doing it first are showing us exactly where the future of work is headed. When corporate stability breaks, 2026. The layoffs of 2026 are not like the layoffs that came before, not because companies are collapsing, not because demand has vanished overnight, and not because profits have suddenly disappeared. In many cases, the opposite is true. Some of the companies cutting the most jobs in 2026 are still profitable. Some are still growing. Some are posting record efficiency. Yet tens of thousands of workers are being erased from payrolls as if those roles never mattered. This is not panic. It is calculation. Corporate America is making a quiet decision that it can operate with fewer people permanently. And once that decision is made, those jobs do not come back. What we are witnessing is not a downturn response. It is a redesign of how work itself is valued. For decades, large corporations were seen as anchors of stability. They offered long careers, internal mobility, predictable advancement, and the assumption that loyalty would be rewarded with time. That assumption is now gone. In 2026, employment is no longer treated as a long-term commitment. It is treated as a variable cost, something to be optimized, minimized, and removed when technology or structure allows. The companies at the beginning of this list are where that shift becomes visible, not at the edges of the economy, but at its core. Number 10, Intel. Intel's layoffs in 2026 mark the end of an era most workers believed was untouchable. For decades, Intel represented one of the safest career paths in American technology. Hardware manufacturing was considered insulated from the volatility of software, long product cycles, deep specialization, institutional knowledge that could not be easily replaced. That logic no longer holds. In 2026, Intel has aggressively reduced headcount across engineering, manufacturing support, and corporate operations. Entire teams have been consolidated or eliminated as the company restructures around efficiency instead of expansion. What makes Intel's cuts especially significant is not just how many jobs were lost, but which jobs. Highly skilled engineers, senior technical managers, workers whose expertise took years to develop. These were not experimental roles. They were core to Intel's identity. But global chip competition has tightened margins, and Intel's leadership has made a strategic choice: reduce labor intensity, even in areas once considered untouchable. Automation inside fabrication plants has accelerated. Support functions have been centralized. Layers of oversight have been removed. The message is unmistakable. Even in hardware, even in manufacturing, stability is no longer guaranteed. Intel's layoffs reveal something deeper about 2026. Legacy status does not protect jobs. Experience does not protect jobs. Specialization does not protect jobs. Efficiency does. Number 9, Meta. Meta's layoffs no longer feel like shock events. They feel routine. By 2026, Meta has normalized workforce reduction as a management tool. Teams are cut, reorganized, and cut again, often with little warning and minimal explanation beyond a familiar word: efficiency. AI-driven content moderation, automated advertising optimization, smaller product teams supported by larger models. Each innovation reduces the need for human labor, not incrementally, but structurally. Meta's leadership no longer believes that scale requires people. It believes scale requires systems. What once required thousands of employees can now be handled by software, models, and centralized infrastructure. And once those systems prove cheaper and faster, the human roles disappear permanently. The cuts reach across the organization: engineers, designers, analysts, recruiters, middle managers. Entire career tracks that once defined big tech employment are quietly removed. What makes Meta's layoffs especially revealing is intent. This is not a company preparing for recovery. It is a company preparing for permanence. Meta is not waiting to rehire when conditions improve. It is designing a future where fewer people are required at all. And that future is arriving faster than most workers expected. Number 8. Disney. Disney's layoffs in 2026 reflect a deeper crisis inside legacy media, one that goes far beyond streaming competition. For generations, Disney symbolized creative stability, long careers, institutional prestige, a belief that talent was protected, even during downturns. That protection is gone. In 2026, Disney has cut deeply across its empire. Studio teams downsized, corporate roles eliminated, regional operations consolidated, creative departments outsourced or dissolved entirely. These are not entry-level positions. They are writers, producers, editors, marketers, executives. People who built careers believing that Disney represented permanence. But streaming growth has slowed. Production costs remain high. Consumer spending on entertainment has tightened. And Disney's sprawling structure has become expensive to sustain. The response has been ruthless. Projects are canceled. Teams are merged. Redundancy is eliminated without sentiment. The company's priority is no longer protecting talent. It is protecting margins. Disney's layoffs expose an uncomfortable truth about 2026. Even cultural institutions are now governed by the same cold logic as technology firms. Creativity does not protect employment. Legacy does not protect employment. Only efficiency does. Number 7. Amazon. Amazon's layoffs carry a different kind of weight. Because Amazon does not merely reflect the labor market, it shapes it. By 2026, Amazon has turned its obsession with optimization inward. Corporate roles have been slashed across cloud services, retail operations, human resources, recruiting, and middle management. Warehousing automation continues to accelerate, replacing human labor faster than new roles are created. What makes Amazon's cuts especially alarming is the philosophy behind them. Amazon no longer sees headcount growth as success. It sees it as inefficiency. AI-driven forecasting replaces planners. Robotics replace warehouse labor. Algorithms replace managers. Once automation proves cheaper, jobs do not return. Amazon is not trimming excess. It is redesigning work itself. And because Amazon sets standards for logistics, retail, and cloud infrastructure, its decisions ripple outward. Suppliers adjust. Competitors follow. Entire sectors recalibrate expectations. When Amazon decides people are optional, the rest of the market listens. Number 6. Google, Alphabet. Google's layoffs in 2026 mark a psychological turning point for Silicon Valley. For years, Google represented the gold standard of employment: lavish campuses, long-term projects, a culture that allowed experimentation without immediate pressure to monetize. That culture has ended. By 2026, Google has aggressively reduced teams across search, advertising, cloud services, and experimental divisions. Projects without near-term profitability are canceled. Roles that do not directly impact revenue are eliminated. AI is central to the shift. Tasks once handled by entire teams are now managed by models. Fewer engineers maintain larger systems. Fewer analysts interpret automated insights. Google has not collapsed, but it has fundamentally changed its relationship with workers. Employment is no longer built on trust or loyalty. It is built on immediate output. Even at the highest levels of skill, workers are now evaluated through the lens of replacement. Google's layoffs send a clear message across Silicon Valley. No company is too innovative to cut. No culture is too generous to be dismantled. Why these cuts matter more than the numbers. By this point in the list, a critical pattern emerges. These companies are not cutting jobs because they are desperate. They are cutting jobs because they are confident. Confident that technology can replace labor. Confident that backlash will fade. Confident that efficiency matters more than employment. This is not a temporary response to uncertainty. It is a structural shift. Corporations are no longer asking how to grow workforces. They are asking how few people they can operate with. And the answer keeps shrinking. What disappears in this process is not just jobs, but careers. Long-term employment, internal mobility, institutional memory. These are replaced by thinner organizations optimized for speed and margin. This is why the layoffs of 2026 feel different. They are not adjustments, they are strategy. And the companies still ahead on this list take that strategy even further, cutting deeper, faster, and at a scale that reshapes entire labor markets. Because as we move into the next phase of this countdown, layoffs stop being a consequence of change. They become the business model itself. By the time layoffs reach this stage, they are no longer explained as temporary corrections. They become policy. The companies ahead are not cutting jobs because they misjudged growth or reacted too late to changing conditions. They are cutting jobs because they have redefined what a successful workforce looks like in 2026. Smaller, faster, cheaper, and far less human. This is the moment where corporate America stops pretending layoffs are a last resort and starts treating them as a core operating strategy. Number 5. Microsoft. Microsoft's layoffs in 2026 signal a shift that few workers expected from one of the most established technology companies in the world. For years, Microsoft carried a reputation for relative stability. Growth was measured. Hiring was disciplined. Careers felt predictable compared to the volatility of other tech giants. That reputation no longer holds. In 2026, Microsoft has cut deeply across cloud services, enterprise sales, gaming divisions, and internal operations. Entire teams have been merged or eliminated as AI systems take over functions once handled by people. The language used to justify the cuts is familiar: efficiency, optimization, focus. But behind that language is a fundamental change in philosophy. AI co-pilots replace support staff. Automated cloud management reduces engineering oversight. Sales pipelines are optimized so fewer people manage larger territories. What makes Microsoft's layoffs especially revealing is who is being cut. These are not experimental hires. They are core employees, people maintaining products that still generate billions in revenue. Microsoft is not cutting because demand collapsed. It is cutting because it believes humans are no longer the most cost-effective option. That belief marks a turning point. When a company of Microsoft's size and maturity adopts this logic, it sends a signal across the entire technology sector. Stability is no longer part of the deal. Number 4, Salesforce. Salesforce built its identity on expansion, rapid hiring, aggressive growth targets, a belief that enterprise software could scale indefinitely through people. By 2026, that model has reversed sharply. Salesforce's layoffs reflect a hard reality inside enterprise software. Growth has slowed, customers are consolidating tools, and subscription fatigue is widespread. Renewals are weaker, budgets are tighter, decision cycles are longer. The response has been severe. Sales teams are slashed, customer success roles are reduced, marketing departments are consolidated, regional operations are shut down. This is not trimming, it is retrenchment. Salesforce is restructuring around fewer clients, fewer deals, and fewer employees managing them. Automation now handles onboarding, analytics, and support functions that once required large teams. What makes Salesforce's layoffs particularly destabilizing is speed. Many employees were hired during boom years and told they were joining a long-term growth engine. Instead, they became overhead. And overhead is eliminated quickly. The lesson is clear. Rapid expansion offers no protection when growth slows. Number 3, JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan's layoffs send a chilling message far beyond finance. When the largest and most profitable bank in the United States cuts jobs aggressively, it is not reacting to collapse. It is preparing for what comes next. By 2026, JP Morgan has reduced headcount across investment banking, mortgage lending, risk management, and back-office operations. AI-driven analytics and automation now replace roles that once required entire teams. Mortgage divisions have been hit especially hard. High interest rates and declining refinancing activity have rendered large portions of the mortgage workforce unnecessary. And those jobs are not coming back, because the system no longer needs them. What makes JP Morgan's cuts especially important is timing. The bank is cutting while still profitable. That signals expectation, not desperation. JP Morgan is positioning itself for a prolonged slowdown by shrinking labor costs early. It is choosing resilience over employment. And when major banks behave this way, the rest of the economy follows. Financial institutions set the tone for risk tolerance. When they prepare defensively, credit tightens. Investment slows. Hiring freezes spread. Layoffs at this level do not remain isolated. They cascade. The pattern is no longer debatable. By this point, the pattern is impossible to ignore. Layoffs are no longer tied to losses. They are tied to optimization. Companies are no longer asking how to grow employment. They are asking how few people they can operate with. And the answer keeps shrinking. AI replaces tasks. Automation replaces oversight. Software replaces coordination. What remains is a thinner, colder labor market, where jobs exist, but careers do not. Middle management is being erased. One of the most consequential effects of the 2026 layoffs is the quiet elimination of middle management. These roles once provided structure, training, mentorship, institutional memory, clear career pathways. Today, they are viewed as unnecessary layers. Flattened organizations are celebrated as efficient, but they remove the human infrastructure that sustains long-term growth. Without managers, workers become interchangeable units. Without mentors, skill development slows. Without pathways, loyalty disappears. Companies save money. They lose resilience. Middle management was the bridge between strategy and execution. Its disappearance creates fragile organizations, optimized for short-term efficiency but vulnerable to disruption. This shift does not show up immediately on balance sheets. It shows up later, in burnout, mistakes, and institutional decay. Layoffs are teaching workers a permanent lesson. Every round of layoffs teaches the workforce something, not about performance, but about trust. Workers learn that profit does not protect jobs. Loyalty is not rewarded. Performance does not guarantee safety. Once that lesson is absorbed, behavior changes permanently. People stop committing deeply. They stop identifying with companies. They stop building futures inside organizations. This is not a morale issue. It is a structural transformation. When workers disengage, innovation slows. Knowledge sharing declines. Risk-taking disappears. Companies become efficient, but brittle. Why these companies matter so much. The companies in this section do not merely employ people, they set norms. When Microsoft cuts, other tech firms follow. When Salesforce retrenches, SaaS companies adjust. When JP Morgan shrinks, financial institutions prepare. These layoffs ripple outward through suppliers, contractors, regional economies, and labor markets. This is not contained, it is contagious. Entire ecosystems recalibrate expectations based on what these companies do. The illusion of recovery is fading. At this stage, layoffs no longer feel cyclical. People no longer expect rehiring waves. They expect consolidation. And consolidation does not create opportunity. It removes it. The idea that layoffs are temporary, that jobs will return when conditions improve, is losing credibility. The jobs being cut are not paused. They are eliminated. The workforce is adjusting in real time. Workers are responding rationally. They save more. They spend less. They avoid long-term commitments. Job hopping increases, not for advancement, but for survival. Side hustles replace career ladders. Security becomes personal rather than institutional. This changes the emotional relationship people have with work. Employment is no longer a source of identity. It is a transaction. And transactions do not inspire loyalty. Why this phase matters more than the first. The layoffs in Part 1 showed that corporate stability is breaking. The layoffs in Part 2 show something deeper. They show that employment itself is being redefined. Work is no longer something companies nurture. It is something they minimize. This is the point where layoffs stop being reactive and start being intentional. And once that line is crossed, it does not move back easily. What comes next is bigger than tech or finance. The final companies on this list take this logic even further. Their job cuts do not just reduce payrolls. They reshape entire communities, retail, manufacturing, transportation, industries where employment was once considered essential. By the time we reach them, layoffs are no longer corporate decisions. They are economic signals. And those signals point in one direction. By the time layoffs reach this stage, the story is no longer about tech corrections or corporate efficiency. It becomes something much larger. The final companies on this list do not just cut jobs inside offices or corporate campuses. Their decisions ripple outward, through supply chains, local economies, and entire communities. This is where layoffs stop being an internal strategy and start becoming a national signal. Number 2, Walmart. When Walmart cuts jobs, it doesn't feel like a corporate adjustment. It feels like an economic event. By 2026, Walmart has eliminated tens of thousands of positions across corporate operations, regional management, logistics, and store-level roles. The cuts are not dramatic. They are not announced with urgency. They are methodical. Automation sits at the center of nearly every decision. Self-checkout expansion continues aggressively. AI-driven inventory management replaces planning teams. Automated warehouses reduce the need for human labor at scale. Algorithmic scheduling minimizes staffing hours down to the minute. Each system removes people quietly. What makes Walmart's layoffs uniquely dangerous is scale. Walmart is the largest private employer in the United States. When it reduces headcount, entire towns feel it. Local businesses lose customers. Housing markets soften. Municipal tax bases weaken. These are not tech workers with stock cushions and severance packages. They are hourly workers, store supervisors, regional coordinators, logistics staff, people whose income supports rent, healthcare, food, and families, and whose replacement options are limited. Walmart does not describe these changes as layoffs. It describes them as modernization. But modernization does not create replacement jobs at the same scale. Once automation replaces retail operations, those roles do not return, even if consumer demand rebounds. Walmart's cuts reveal something critical about 2026. Low-wage jobs are no longer protected by necessity. High-volume employment is no longer safe because it is essential. Even the backbone of American retail is shrinking its workforce permanently. What Walmart's shift really signals. For decades, Walmart acted as a pressure valve for the labor market. When manufacturing declined, Walmart absorbed displaced workers. When small businesses failed, Walmart hired. When local economies slowed, Walmart stabilized employment. That function is disappearing. Walmart no longer sees itself as a jobs engine. It sees itself as a logistics platform. And platforms do not need people at scale. They need systems. This is where layoffs stop being cyclical. They become structural. Number 1, Tesla. At number 1 is the company that most clearly defines the future of American labor and the most aggressive job cutter of 2026, Tesla. Tesla's layoffs are not driven by collapse. They are driven by belief. By 2026, Tesla has eliminated tens of thousands of jobs across manufacturing, engineering support, sales, marketing, and corporate operations. Entire teams have been dissolved with little warning. The reason is straightforward. Tesla believes humans are the bottleneck. Automation is not a tool inside Tesla. It is the philosophy. Factories are redesigned to minimize human involvement. Software replaces coordination. AI replaces decision layers. Even white-collar roles are not protected. Engineering teams shrink as AI-assisted design accelerates. Sales staff disappear as direct-to-consumer systems mature. Marketing departments contract because algorithms now control demand forecasting and pricing. Tesla does not hide this approach. It celebrates it. Efficiency is framed as innovation. Layoffs are framed as progress. Human replacement is framed as inevitability. What makes Tesla's cuts so influential is not just scale. It is imitation. Other companies watch Tesla closely. Not just automakers, but manufacturers, logistics firms, and technology companies across industries. Tesla is not reacting to the future. It is enforcing it. The end of employment as a goal. At this point, the pattern is undeniable. The largest employers in America are no longer trying to create jobs. They are trying to eliminate them. Not because they are failing, but because they believe success requires fewer people. This is the defining shift of 2026. For the first time in modern economic history, productivity and employment are moving in opposite directions, aggressively. Companies are growing without growing workforces, and once that decoupling happens, the old assumptions collapse. Economic growth no longer guarantees job creation. Innovation no longer expands opportunity. Efficiency no longer supports stability. Employment stops being a social goal. It becomes an optional input. Why these layoffs do not reverse. In previous downturns, layoffs were followed by rehiring. That cycle is breaking. The jobs being cut in 2026 are being replaced by software, robotics, AI systems, centralized platforms. You do not rehire people to do work that no longer exists. When demand returns, companies scale systems, not staff. This means the labor market does not bounce back. It shrinks, stabilizes, and moves forward with fewer jobs than before. The psychological impact is permanent. Every layoff teaches workers something, but layoffs at this scale teach society something far more dangerous. Employment is conditional. Careers are temporary. Stability is optional. People internalize this quickly. They stop trusting employers. They stop planning decades ahead. They stop investing identity into work. This changes behavior. Everywhere, people save more. They spend less. They avoid risk. Economies built on consumption struggle under this mindset. Growth slows not because people lack money, but because they lack confidence. The middle class feels this first. The layoffs of 2026 do not target the poorest first. They target the middle, managers, engineers, analysts, supervisors, skilled specialists, people who followed the rules. When these jobs disappear, the safety net does not catch them. because it was never designed for mass professional displacement. Unemployment benefits are temporary. Healthcare is expensive. Retraining takes time and does not guarantee outcomes. This is why the shock spread so quickly. When the middle class destabilizes, consumption contracts, credit tightens, and social confidence erodes. Why this is not just a job crisis. This is not a recession story, it is a structural transformation. Employment is no longer the central promise of the system. Efficiency is. Shareholder value is. Automation is. And once those become the priority, labor becomes optional, not essential. That is the real story of 2026. The companies on this list are not reckless. They are rational. They are responding to incentives. And the incentives reward fewer people, not more. This means layoffs are no longer a symptom. They are the strategy. And when the largest employers in the country adopt that strategy simultaneously, the consequences do not stay inside corporate walls. They reshape labor markets. They reshape communities. They reshape expectations. The job market has crossed a line. In 2026, something irreversible has happened. The American economy has stopped measuring success by how many people it employs. It now measures success by how many it can operate without. That shift does not cause a sudden collapse. It causes a slow one. Opportunities narrow. Security erodes. Careers fragment. And once this process begins, it does not stop quietly. This is the future. Being built, not tomorrow, not decades from now, now. The companies cutting the most jobs in 2026 are showing exactly where America's workforce is headed: smaller, colder, more automated, and far less forgiving. This is not a warning about one industry. It is a warning about the system itself. Because once jobs become optional, stability disappears. And when stability disappears, everything else follows.